Good evening, witches.
Hello, witches.
I did not check the camera before we started. I think it's good. It still feels crooked. I don't know.
We're always
Oh,
like
it's
this
good.
at the beginning of live because we
Always.
never ever know with live. You never know what you're going to look like, and so you're already live.
There's no preview. And
There's
if
no preview.
anybody
You
knows
can't
how
like
to
check
see
your
that-
hair, make sure everything's in place. So we're like,
see what the camera looks like.
Are we good? Are we centered?
Yeah, they
What's
should
in the
give me like
background?
at least a 10-second countdown or something. Be like, ooh, change all the
Yeah,
things.
yeah, really. Hello, YouTube, if you're listening.
Oh, I could always put it in the creators' comments or something, but yeah, I don't know.
Hi, Selena.
Hi, Selena.
Welcome.
I saw your pictures. I love them from Halloween. Family looked great. We did a little thing for Halloween here at Kat's house, and it was such a spur of the moment. Is it spur?
Spur
of the moment thing.
Yeah.
I just pulled out. So for each of the holidays, I have like a box in my house, so I have like one for Mabone and Luna Sow and of course Samhain. So I knew that we were coming over here to hand out candy, and I just grabbed my whole Samhain like box and brought it over here, and we ended up setting up a really nice table. And I brought a bunch of candles that were from the Dollar Tree. And when the trick-or-treaters came up, because we were dressed as witches, we were like, welcome to the witches seance. So the neighbors down the street had a whole haunted house, so we were just the hors d'oeuvre of the party. When they walked down the street, they got a whole experience.
We were definitely just appetizers.
Yeah, appetizers. We were like, watch out for the scary people jumping out at you. We didn't even know if there were any, but we were like, the anticipation always gets
And
people.
I have lived in this house for 4 years in January. So I've had 3. This is my third or fourth Halloween, whatever that is. It's 2019. And I've never given out candy. I always like turn off all the lights and go hide in the bedroom. And then I realized, after, because I don't know why, just like I'm here by myself. So, with Jamie and Cameron and the table all set up outside, there were so many people out, and there was so many kids. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this every year now because it was fun.
Now we have a bigger plan for next
year. Next year, the witches seances, we're going to
up the game.
We're definitely going to up the game.
Now that we've done it once.
Hi, Tracy.
In my neighborhood, there's no kids that come through. There's just 11 houses. It's off of a main road, so nobody.
They have to come here if they want to hand out candy. Otherwise, they're just sitting there eating a bowl of candy.
Yeah, it'll
with
just
no
be for us.
No trick or treat.
Yeah, nobody will ever come to our door ever. They're not going to pull into a neighborhood.
Hey, Shelly,
welcome. Hi, you guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
tonight we are going over the Suit of Cups, of course. And, Kat and I are doing the homework part, but we do want you to know that this is a place for questions. So if there's any cards that you want answers on or an explanation, definitely let us know.
Of any of the tarot. We'll talk about anything.
Yeah.
Well, literally, we will talk about anything. Tarot, witchcraft, spells, new moon, full moon, astrology, numerology, palmistry, whatever you want. We'll talk about it. Especially this one.
Yeah, I've learned in the last 3 years of being on camera that I don't shut up. It's really, I thought I was a introvert, shy, quiet person. No, not when it comes to talking about witchcraft. I could do I could do a TED Talk series. See, okay, you got me started again. Getting back to what we're talking about tonight, we are going to go over the homework that we put out from Monday's lesson. And that is just to tell a story using the cards. And, in the homework, you don't have to know the meanings of the stories, or if you do know them,
the meanings of the cards. You mean?
Oh, sorry. The meanings of the cards.
Mm-hmm.
You can just make up a story going from card to card, and it helps make a connection to something in the card, to imagine it as a picture from a movie. It's like, and then the next scene, and then the next scene, and how did somebody get there and what happened? So tonight, I don't know Kat's story.
I hid my story from her because, believe it or not. So first of all, the Suit of Cups is as a water sign. This is my suit.
This is our element.
This is my element.
Yeah.
This is my element. Water,
Yeah.
all about emotions and relationships and intuition. And yet, for the life of me, because this is about relationships, and I'm very single, and with numerous failed relationships behind me, romantic relationships behind me, I was struggling with what to make of the story, because when you start with the ace, it's about a new connection. So it's either a friendship or a romance, or it could even be a partnership, but it's a new connection, a new personal, like friend, lover, partner.
Even birth though, because it could be the birth of a child.
Yeah, it could be
But,
anything.
Yeah, it's human to human connectedness is
Yeah.
the suit of cups.
So I struggled, and then I had to go and kind of meditate for a few minutes, and then I got a story down. So she doesn't know
And
what
she
my
hit it,
story
yeah.
is.
So I kind of
And
told
I
her
always like
mine.
that. I like a surprise.
All right. With my story, I also struggled. I'm a Pisces, I'm a water sign. And with these, I'm, our rising is Virgo. And so we definitely lean more towards like our air sign. And then I feel like, I know, or not air, earth. And then I know for the Libra moons, it's like that's our air element. But I still like Wands was the easiest for me.
Wands was easy.
Wands was easy because it's all about action and getting
It's all
out
about
there.
action. Wands was all about, and that was last week. If you missed that live, last week we did Ace through 10 of Wands.
Yeah,
each of us telling a story of how those cards went, and that was easy for me too.
It was easy.
It came right up. But
now,
this one, surprisingly, I was surprised that I struggled with it. So
I think it's because you have to get in your feels and you have to think about when a connection was made. And something that is, it's a spiritual quest. It's the beginning of a spiritual quest to something. So even in these cards are like our everyday life events where you can picture those moments of when you realize something has happened or there's a situation, but it's not overarching themes that go throughout your life. So for me, I went really easy and simple. I chose the moment that I knew I was going to not be with my son's father and I was going to open myself up for a relationship and never, ever settle for less. So that was my spark. This is representing the new beginnings. And sometimes it's just a seed. With the ace, it doesn't mean that the event happened right then. It can be the seed of the idea. Like it's underground, it's planted, you have the intention of it, and then you start doing the actions towards the thing. So I knew I was leaving my son's father and if I was going to be in a relationship, I was not going to settle for less than what I wanted or deserved. And that took many years to find. So I was single for a lot of those years and I was okay with that because I knew I'd rather be single than be with somebody that, just didn't have it together. Okay. So that is my Ace of Cups. I decided I would rather be alone than be in a relationship that wasn't fulfilling. And I set the intention to start or find a relationship that had meaning and purpose and it was mutually beneficial. So 5 years later or something.
And we
5 years later.
5 years later,
Yes.
after the spark.
My seed sat in the ground for a long time, wanting that relationship, but holding out for what I truly wanted. I did meet somebody and we were friends and I was actually trying to learn like the area through him and possibly get a job. Like if he knew people, because he had been in this area for 40 years. So I met him and we just had the best time together. So this is my meeting. This is our, a mutually beneficial relationship. And as friendships, they can definitely be that where you make each other laugh. You like the same things, they're uplifting when you're around them. So that was when I met him. And then we just laughed and celebrated all the time. And we've always said every time we're together, like, we're so grateful and our families get along and our friends get along. And so there's never been any kind of weirdness, like he knew my sister for 9 years before I ever met him. So there was already something that was good. So this is probably me and my husband and my sister, even though none of them look like a man, but he's there somewhere. Toasting to the fact that we just love being around each other. Like this is a good time. We just have a really good time. So this is about your celebration and your community. And through finding my husband, well, he was my boyfriend, which sounds so weird now. I built this network around me, like I gained a community. He even encouraged me to go back to college, in which I gained a veteran community, a veterans friendship there too. So that was what the partnerships brought, was that community and celebration. So as you can imagine, I was single for 5 years and little thoughts started popping up about how I have to consider a whole other person's feelings when I want to do something and I can't be selfish. And so there was times in my relationship where I did want to sort of run away or like do what I want to do and not have to worry about what he thinks about that. because I was so used to doing that. So I definitely admit that I was selfish, or I had thoughts of being selfish. Like we always just talked about everything, but this was me really ignoring, like I have this beautiful thing in front of me and I want to mess it up because I want to stay out till 3 a.m. with my sister at the bar. Like, what is that? So this is me sort of trying to mess up my stability. So this card is about stability, and it's about the discontent that you have. Sometimes those ideas of discontent are false. And that's, for me, my discontent was false. Like, did I actually want to be single again just so I could do whatever I wanted? No, I didn't. But I had to like make amends with that in my mind, that when you're in a relationship, you got to consider what the other person thinks and feels about your actions. So that was my discontent for a moment. And again, these are moments. It's not like this was a year-long situation. This was just little things that popped up. Like I met veteran friends at college and I was like, hey, we're going to go to a bar and you're not invited. That's weird. He's like, well, we're dating, so that's really weird. I was like, is it? Like, oh, I forgot there's things like that in relationships where your spouse is supposed to go, or your partner's supposed to go. Just weird stuff. Okay. So then I had some mourning of sorts for my free, go on road trips, take any job I want life that I had when I didn't have to worry about anybody else. And I didn't focus on this too long, but this was about, I had to start living with somebody else. So we moved in together. Okay. The things back here, these are the good things that you have. And you're focusing on like what you're losing. All my personal space, my own closet, or like whatever you're losing in that relationship because you've come together. There's sort of a loss or disappointment, but it doesn't have to be, bless you.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
It doesn't have to be something like big and huge and awful. It could just be like, oh man, I don't have my own closet anymore. Or now I share weird dishes, or we move in together and whose couch do we like better? Because one of them has to go, something like that. There's still this, a conflict or a challenge that you're going through or getting over when you have relationships. So that was just one for me. It was like, living with somebody was so weird at first. I was like, wow, I just don't have like a house to myself after so long. That was weird for me. All right. So now we're living together and this is like year 4. And that's just for my own time frame. That doesn't mean anything for the cards. But once we moved in together, I swear everything got so much simpler. Truly, we had less miscommunications because we were always going to the same place. We were leaving from the same place. So it wasn't like, where are you at? What have you been doing? Hey, you didn't answer your phone, or I texted you an hour ago, or all of that stopped. I was like, wow, this relieved a lot of, I think what he was afraid of is like me running, because I definitely told him I was a runner. I would get up and leave the moment I felt uncomfortable. So once we moved in together, it was like, oh, now we really truly feel happy. And that's when we really like started to fall in love. And then what happened again? Because he proposed to me and I was like, oh, there's no question that I would marry him. And then we had a longer engagement, a couple of years. During that time, I started thinking about all the fears. What if something happens? What if I get divorced? Again, I've already been divorced. I don't want to get divorced again. So all of these options, right, that are out here, and the fears, because you can choose. There's like wonderful things here and there's scary things here and there's things that you don't even believe in yet that are out there. But having to go through all that in my mind and sort it out, like, what does married life look like? I don't even know how to be a wife. I was married for like a year and a half before. So all of that stuff came in. There were fears, there were hopes, dreams. That's what the 7 of Cups represents, is more of our choices. And I think the best way to get through this is to use your intuition. And so I told myself that our story was so linked together, like the way everything had to happen for us to meet. I was like, we're meant to be together. So I let all those fears and things go, and I focused on like the happy home. Of course, when you're really happy, exes try to pop into your life and like, hey, what are you doing? That didn't so much happen at the time, like where I was in the story. But at some point in my relationship with my husband, my son's father has definitely tried to come in and ruin stuff and like say he's moving here, or, want to take my kid, or just all the little things. Or even, I dropped my kid off at a bus station with him and he wants to try to walk up and hug me. And I was like, whoa, we don't even like each other. Like there's none of that. So this reminds me of an old relationship rearing its ugly head, and you having to be like, I'm absolutely walking away from this. There's nothing good here. Leave, run, flee for the mountains, flee to the hills. Like, you don't want any part of that. So I know it's weird that the 8 is abundance, like in numerology and for the cards. I always think of this as the abundance of broken stuff that you have that you should be walking away from. Like, just walk away from it. And then this is me. So this is insight in solitude. So every day that I'm alone, when my husband's at work, or if I was at work or driving or whatever, I feel really good about all of the decisions that I've made in our relationship and how we stick it out and talk through things when it's tough. So like, this is me and all my relationship achievements with him, because I had to really grow and change like a lot in order to make this relationship work. And it was all for the better. Like, he has definitely made me better. And I know I've made him better because we have different insights. He's 20 years older than me. So we really balance each other out. And now our life is happily ever after. I feel very lucky. I do have a really great relationship, and my husband is super awesome. So that is my relationship story within the cups. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was a lot of personal stuff.
Lots of personal stuff.
Lots of personal
but
stuff.
That's what cups are about, right? It's about relationships, and it gets personal.
It has to get personal, because if you don't have emotion in it, if it's not things that made you feel something, it's not a cups card then. You know, it was all thinking. It was a swords card or something. But
so for my story,
oh boy, I'm ready.
For my story, I'm gonna give you some backstory on it, because you'll understand why. But when I was 10, I found out that I had a different father than my stepfather, who I didn't know was my stepfather. And so I found out I had this dad out there that I never knew. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was like my escape. And a couple of years after I found out that I started to have a relationship or interaction with him, I also found out that I had a brother. So I discovered that I had another brother. So I grew up in a family of 6 kids, but then I found out I had this other brother out there, right? And I asked about the other brother, and the only thing that I was told is his name was Michael, and he was a couple of years younger than me. So life goes on. I'm 10 years old, right? Life goes on. Over the course of my life, from time to time, I looked for him. My father, our father. We share a father, not a mother. We were estranged. And so the few times that I would talk to him, I would ask about Michael, and he didn't want to tell me anything. So I was just kind of lost. And then DNA happened in Ancestry. And so a couple of Christmases ago, all the kids were doing it. So I bought a 23andMe kit and spit in a tube and sent it off in the hopes that I would like connect with some relatives. And I found my brother, and he only lived an hour away from me. So this was like somebody I had never met. He was 60 when we met, and we didn't, we would live together when we were really little. Like, he was a baby and I was like 3, and neither one of us remembered it. But this was the opportunity for me to have this relationship with this person who I had thought of for my whole entire life, and I didn't know. But as fate would have it, I moved to Florida. He'd lived here for like 20 years or something. I'd only lived here for about 2 years at that time, but I found him through 23andMe, and we met, and we started to develop a relationship. So, we found, what we discovered in each other is, because we shared the same father, is that we had this connection with us. And so we would be able to talk about the evil stepmother that we shared, because I had some interactions with her when I was a teenager. And that actually, she was a reason for the estrangement with my father, is because she was only 10 years older than me, and she didn't want anything to do with me. So we had this connection and this partnership where we could talk shit about her. Mm-hmm. And it was really great to have this person who I was connected to my father through. He looked just like him, and he was, my father was a pilot. He's a pilot. He was a mechanic, a journeyman, builder. So all these similarities, so it was good to know him and know that something really good came from my dad, even though at the time I was just like, you know what, he just walked away and like he didn't give a shit about me. But we had that connection, he and I. So the relationship between us was mutually beneficial, which is what the Two of Cups is about. And then, of course, so one of the best things that came out of the relationship with my brother that I just met was that I have my whole family that he got to meet. So all my kids got a new uncle, a really cool uncle too.
Very cool uncle.
Very cool uncle that just loves to talk and tell stories and is really fun to be around and loves to drink, which we all got down with that. And then he had a whole side of his family. So he had a daughter and a mother and, so I got to meet them. So both of us got like more family out of this. So that's the celebrating. So the next thing you know, we're at each other's, holidays and stuff like that, celebrating with our new family that we've just gotten connected to. So and this is what the Three of Cups is about. It's about celebrating and community. Let's see. And then, so Four of Cups. So this is, let's see, what did I write down about this? Sorry. So even though I had this connection with my brother, I was sort of like longing for, I think still, because I never did really close the chapter with my father. So even though I had all these great things in front of me, all of my family and all of this, and the universe had gifted me my brother, I still was kind of focused on the what ifs about my father. And as it so happened, my brother had always been in touch with my father. So he knew where he lived, he had his address and all of that stuff. So this is me, despite all of the things that I have, and then the universe bringing me here, still feeling sort of a loss and a discontent with that. And of course, let's see, what did I write down? Oh, so like not even 6 months after I met him and I got his address from my brother, now I knew where he was because I had never been able to find him for like since I was 30. And this happened just a couple of years ago. So for like 30 years, I didn't know where he was. And I had looked, but I couldn't find him. But now I had an address. And so my daughters and I took a trip out to Arizona for me to, go see him and be like, hey, haven't seen you in a while. How's it going?
For all of us to see
yeah. So that was a really big deal. But of course, his wife is still as hateful as ever after 50 years, whatever I did 50 years ago that pissed her off. That still was a craw in her, whatever you call it. I was still a thorn in her side. And she's like, I can't believe you have the nerve to show your face around here after all you did. And I'm like, all I did when I was 13? Like, really? Yeah. So it was me being able, going to visit him and then having my daughters meet him. And we did hang out with him for a little while. He was very sickly. It was very clear that he was at the end of his life. But at least I got to go and say, I forgive you. I love you, even though I didn't feel it. I still said it anyway, because that was the purpose of the trip. But, and just to like close that chapter. But, with all of that, it's like, there's the disappointment, there's the sadness of, what you didn't have, what you lost, all of those years of loss. And dealing with that, even though there is all of this opportunity still, because the future's bright. You can't do anything about the past, but the future's always there and you can do what you want with it. You can make it what you want. Mm-hmm. After that trip, there was some reminiscing about my childhood. And because I did have probably 3 years with him, with my dad, with my real father, 3 years on and off, where I did have a relationship with him. And he, until he met the evil stepmother. And so there was some reminiscing there about those times. And that's what this card is about. It's about childhood and past memories. And then, at some point in time, you have to make the choice, or I had to make the choice to accept the reality of what is. So what was the reality that I was going to accept? And this is a card about choices. And these are good choices, bad choices. So what are you going to do with that past stuff that you need to leave behind? You have to make the choice to see what you have in front of you, see what is good in front of you, what is good in your life, and walk away from that other stuff. And so, of course, with that, with making that decision, then, there's a period of mourning of that moving on part, which is why this card is about moving on from the pain and the loss. And so this was a whole process that I went through for about 6 months until he passed away. And then, which he only passed away 6 months after I saw him. And then being there for my brother, because my brother was very close to him and my brother was really sad. I didn't shed a tear because I barely had a relationship with the man, but I was able to be there as a support system for my brother. And at the same time, leaving all the crap, behind and just getting on with my life. Mm-hmm. And so, after Jack died, that was my father's name. After he died, this is me being there to support my brother and help celebrating Jack's, because Jack, for all of his faults as a father to me, because he was not this way with my brother, he was a good father to my brother. But with me, celebrating talking about the things that he'd done in his life, all because he really did do a lot of things. He served in the military. He had a great career. He built, he was really handy. He taught my brother everything. So this is really me celebrating for my brother, not so much for me, but also to say, hey, even though my dad wasn't a good dad for me, he was still a good person, just not to me. And then finally, in the end, a lot of relationships are about accepting things the way that they are, even if they're not perfect. So even though I have the loss of not having this father that I wish I could have had a relationship for all of my life and never did, I still have all of these things to be grateful for and appreciate all the family that I do have. I have wonderful children. I have an awesome brother and all of his family. Then we're all really close in proximity, living together, and we get to spend time together and we get to connect. And so that's my happily ever after. And that's my
those are our stories.
That's my story through the cups.
Yes.
So,
well, thank you for sharing, because yours was very personal and detailed.
Mine was it was hard to, for those of you who are doing the homework this week with these cards, it may be hard to find what is the one thing that you want to focus on. Because we both, I think, wanted to tell a story that you could make up a story. It doesn't have to be about you. But for us, it's more, I think we can relate better to people when we tell some personal things about ourselves, because we know many of you have gone through very similar, or if not exact, situations that we've gone through. And so that's why we tell you our personal lives, so that we can make that connection and you can know that we understand, on a deep level, these human things. And it's why we're here to help. It's why we're here on this journey ourselves, on this spiritual journey ourselves, and then why we're finding people to come along on this journey with us and grow.
Definitely. Yes.
So that's that.
Tracy says, thank you for being so open and raw with your story. I wasn't sure if either of us were going to cry, so I'm glad we didn't.
Not yet.
That's all still fresh. That's within the last couple of years. So yeah. And my thing, I've been with my husband now 9.5 years. So almost 10. We just rounded up. But I think that the relationship and the emotion stuff is difficult, because oftentimes we get stuck pointing the finger at other things, and it's much harder for us to accept what we're feeling, that we're owning, to own what you're feeling about a situation. Often I think that it's just normal for us to be like, well, he did this, he made me mad, he hurt me. Okay, somebody did something that upset you. How long do you hold on to those things? How long do you let that ruminate in your body and cause, stress? And that's what the cups kind of do. They're like asking you to clarify these situations that can be really happy and nostalgic, stuff you need to walk away from, deciding your fears, your hopes, your dreams, your starts with a T. Temptations.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the word.
Well, I think also the important, if nothing else, what you can get from the stories that we've told you is that in relationships we all go through challenges, and
Yes.
we have challenges within ourselves that we have to deal with, our own like fears and
That's in your
doubts about it, and then we have to go and interact with other people and sort of like, well, we have to at some point we have to reconcile those fears so that they don't become what rules our life. Like, getting over. I mean, I didn't cry when my father died, because I just, after 30 years of not, or my whole life really, because I hadn't seen him for 30 years, or I hadn't spoken to him. Last time I'd seen him, I was 18. And I didn't see him again until like 2 years ago. But I spoke to him when I was around 30 on the phone, and he just had no interest in my life. And, for a kid, you're like, damn, that's fucked up. What did I do? What did I do that, what's wrong with me? And then you look back and you say, people are human, even our parents who don't always live up to our expectations. They're human beings and they have their own challenges. And he had a lot of his, he was an alcoholic. He tried to get off the booze, but he would only do it for so long. And then he got with somebody who kind of helped him stay on the straight and narrow, I guess. She got him clean, but then he would backslide. And so that caused problems between them. So, he had a tough life when you're an alcoholic and you're like a true alcoholic. That's a hard habit to kick, man. That's like, I don't know. I'm not. I never have been, but the people that, if you know anybody that is an alcoholic, you know how difficult it is to finally be able to break that. And so that was a part of him. But anyway, relationships, it's tough. And unless we just want to be hermits and we don't want to have relationships and friends and family and stuff, because we can do that. We can choose to just be like, I'm just going to stay to myself because I don't want to deal with the pain of other people. And I know for me personally, when I was young, all the stuff that happened to me with both of my parents, they were just lacking. I built this wall around me, and for years and years and years, it was very hard for me to trust people and believe in them or even believe in myself. So thankfully that changed. Although some days, the doubts creep in.
I'm telling you, that's one of those times where you have that 7 of Cups moment where you're looking at all this stuff. You're like, oh gosh, all this stuff's in my head, and trying to figure out, what to focus on. I think that card does a good job of showing you in your brain how in control you can be if you recognize it, and then you choose, like, I'm going to choose this cup, and then everything else, that's it. I'm letting it all go.
As far as the suits and what they represent, I think there's a lot of happiness in the cups and the cup cards. You can see that most of the people are, they're coming together in partnerships. They're celebrating. They have some mopey periods. They're reminiscing about their childhood or the past. But in the end, it's good stuff. And I think, for me, it's the reminder that if we work at it and we're willing to look at ourselves and make changes ourselves and recognize our role in the relationship and how what we do, what we say, how we act impacts that. If we want to have a relationship with somebody, if they're open to it, we can. So relationships can be repaired sometimes, like with the case of my father. It was so far gone that, and it was too many years that there was, and the evil stepmom was still there influencing all of that. So and unwelcoming and unwilling to get over the past. So that was just, in my next life, maybe we'll meet again.
Work it out.
Yeah. We'll work it out. So
this is where we gain our lessons. And I always think of my hardships as setting me up to be stronger for something else in the future, or I think of it in 2 ways. It's setting me up to be stronger about something else in the future because I've already dealt with like level 1 of that or level 2 of this problem, issue, whatever it is. Or it's so that I can connect with other people who have had this same experience. So I find that is way more helpful, to connect with people who have had the same experience. And there's like a healing that can happen when everybody talks about what's happened to them. And that like somebody knows what you've have felt and gone through. There's just something about that within the human experience that when you don't feel alone, because this is about belonging also, being able to find your group and knowing that you're in a good place, in a good family relationship situation, whatever it is. So that belonging when you've been through events. Yeah. It made me, when I was in Barcelona a few years ago, I got my phone snatched out of my hand, and I kind of like fought the guy, did some shuffling on the street, ended up in the police station to report it. And I was the first one in there because this happened at like 6:55 in the morning. And I was there for 4 hours. So as the day went on, I saw more and more people who had been pickpocketed, their purses stolen, their phones stolen. And I changed my day around. Instead of like wallowing in self-pity that my phone was gone, I started talking to them. I was like, what happened to you guys? How did it happen? Oh, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. And like, just trying to talk people while they're there in that bad situation, instead of all of us being in our little seats and nobody talking about what's happened. I figured we could also all learn from each other. It's like, how did they get you? How did they get you? I mean, I was standing alone on a street, like a street that should be busy, but because it was so early, it wasn't. And they just came up behind me and snatched it right out of my, like I was looking at it and that's it, and took off running. So other people, they had sneaky ways to get to people's stuff. And, I know there were people that were way worse off, like this older couple that were from India. They were so nice. They stole like a fanny pack thing and it had her medicine in it. And she's like, I don't know how I'm going to get my medicine. I was like, oh my gosh. So sharing our experiences can really help bring us all together and make us not feel so alone. And that's what I think the card cups do as well. The card cups, the cup cards. Dyslexia at work there. Well, that was our evening of doing the
unless you
homework
guys
with
have
stories.
If anybody has any questions, for those of you who are on with us, if you have any questions about, any of the cup cards, we talk about them as long as you want. And if you don't, then we'll probably just let you get on with your evening. Our days are shorter now, and I'm sure everybody's feeling that.
We're going to be switching the time back.
We are going to be switching the time. Yeah, we're going to be switching the time. It's cold. It's actually for the first time cold.
Look, I'm in like sweater.
It's cold here in Florida, which is shocking because it's never cold. It's never even cool, really.
It got down to 59, but then the high today was 81. So that's our fluctuation. So you got to start out with like a sweater on.
It's cold, but my air still comes on.
Yeah, it's so odd. It's like, not sure.
Thank you, Shelly. My birthday is next week, the 8th, November 8th.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
It's Wednesday.
Yeah. Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, she's going to be 36, you guys. Yay.
I'm going to be 26.
Oh,
25.
No.
What if I reverse it? 6'5". That doesn't really help. I'm going to be 65.
56.
Yeah, it doesn't really help. It only knocks off.
It
only knocks off a few years. I'm going to be 65, which I cannot believe. And it's like, oh wow, this is really happening. I'm getting old. I'm officially a senior citizen. If I didn't already know by all the Medicaid and funeral arrangement crap that shows up in my mailbox every day.
Oh God, funeral arrangements.
Oh my God, every week some funeral home sending me like, have you planned for your final disposition? No, I'm in the business. I know what I'm doing. So anyway, thank you for the, thank you, Shelly, for remembering that my birthday is around this time of year, Scorpio season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are doing the Suit of Swords on Monday.
Ooh, swords. Swords are tough.
Well, it's all about being in your head. So we go from being too much in your heart and having a lot of feelings and happiness and all that. So now we're going to shift to be in our heads. And then the week after that, we're going to shift to what is in our environment with the Pentacles.
Well, and the swords, we stay in our heads a lot. And so I think when you look at the Suit of Swords and you see the characters and what they're going through, and you just look at the progression, like, wow, you really have to work hard to get out of your own head. And we do, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I can totally relate to that. So I have to have music on or something. I have to be listening to something or thoughts. Yeah. It's like, a rat, a mouse, and a hamster and a wheel or something going around and around and around. So, all right. So Monday night we will be our meetup. Our meetup will be week 10.
week 10 of the tarot.
Yeah, we only
To
have
go over the swords.
swords.
Yes.
And then the following week will be our
We'll do our
final
live.
tarot class.
Yeah.
So
All right.
thank you for being
guys.
here with us. We appreciate you all,
Yes.
and we hope you found some value in this.
Yes.
And that if you're part of our group, that you're doing your homework and you
Yeah.
can make up your own story
Make up your own
about the
story.
cups.
It's
Yeah.
hard. You saw us struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, it required a lot of explanation rather than like what, because a situation is like, it's not just boom, one sentence. It's like,
No,
you
these
feel
are
like you gotta tell
relationships.
it.
They're complex.
Yeah, it's complex.
They really are.
It
So
is.
this is this is where we're dealing with all the other people on the planet.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the other people on the planet.
So leave
But all
room in
those
your journal for lots of writing space.
all those different personalities, from our family to our coworkers to our lovers,
Children.
and friends, children. Yeah,
Children.
all of that. So anyway,
All
well,
right. Have a great weekend, you guys.
all right. We'll see you Monday night.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Mm-mm.